So this is BoneChat 63. It's open discussion time. Um, yeah, and anybody can bring up anything they want to talk about. I'll throw out a few topics. Medtronic bought Nanovis, nano titanium technology. That's kind of interesting. Um, then Mark Maloney did his AI webinar yesterday. I'd love to hear about that. I can talk about the Bone Factory. Um, I've got a group of people where we're helping surgeons take ideas and turn them into products, kind of fast and cheap. And it's kind of interesting. We've got four things going on right now. Um, I don't know. Jesse can tell us about Bone Bridge. What is, where does everybody want to go?
I'll tell you about I'll tell you about the webinar when you're ready.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's kick off with that. Unfortunately I got double booked and I missed it, but it looked like you had a great turnout.
We had a good turnout, and
Major kudos, Mark. Great conversation.
oh,
I got
thanks.
to sit in on some of his really impressive folks you have on there.
So I know I was pretty humbled. Some of my guests are pretty bright people, and the panel was Ron Navarro from Kaiser Permanente. He's chief of the Central Region. He's a pretty practical guy, president of Hispanic American Orthopedic Surgeon Group, and he's very active in the academy too. And always interested in new stuff, new technology. I think he's mostly sports. He probably does some total joints. Kishore Tipernini from Arizona, another orthopedic surgeon. It was orthocentric. Um, he also is CEO of Tempeda. Um, Kishore wrote the software that we used to build eTrauma, the original digital imaging company we sold to Stryker. So he's been like a coder guy. In fact, he wanted to go to computer science school at UC Berkeley, but his father wouldn't let him because a good Indian goes to medical school. And he made him go to medical school. So Kishore did like a 6-year MD, undergrad program, but he kept on coding, and he's written a lot of apps through the years. And so his program Tempeda is an AI-enabled templating system, which literally increases revenue by 40% over the last 2 years. He didn't really get too much in that. I told him to go light on that, not brag too much. But that's how much time he saves. And then let's see, we had Roy Bajarno, who is the CEO of Scale Healthcare. He's a very bright guy, a very extensive network, super connected, former investment banker. Roy's grandparents were signed the original document of independence of the state of Israel. So he's pretty interesting background in that regard. Nassim Ariampou is a PhD in computer science, machine learning. She's out of Vancouver, Canada. So she was on there. Julia Komisarchek, whose specialty is also machine learning. And she does, her focus is de-identification of data. And she's all about building data lakes, data sharing, data access. It's like Robin Young said at a dinner I hosted about 3 or 4 years ago. He said, if you want to make a lot of money in orthopedics, he said, make a lot of money in data. I mean, that's kind of what he was kind of exaggerating, but he was pretty prescient on that. And then the third doctor was kind of like Dr. Everyman, and that's why he was there. He's a regular good guy here in Atlanta and very normal. He's trying to use AI. He's struggling with it. And he was there as sort of the representative of the people, so to speak. And let's see. And then we had Drew DeAngelis because he publishes Orthopedics This Week, and he's got a big network now. What came out of it was the biggest challenge that everybody agreed that they saw is data sharing, data access. Where do you get it? It's greatly limited. Most medical data just comes out of 2 or 3 big cities, big universities like Boston and New York. And there's not as much there as you think there is. And there's not any more to be had unless people share data. And there's varying degrees of pessimism and optimism on that. It was generally agreed that the easiest and most practical way for physicians to use AI in 2025 is to save time on documentation, EMRs that they love to hate. Okay, they just spend so much time either during the day or at the end of the day on their EMR documentation, and AI can greatly relieve that. So that was generally agreed as the number one. The number two was using AI for marketing and everyday receptionist duties, things like that, in your practice. And it's already out there. I took my wife on Tuesday to the urgent care for a bad cold, sinus infection, and it was part of Emory University's urgent care center where I live. I called up to make the appointment, and to my great surprise, because I didn't realize it was this prevalent already, I wound up talking to an AI. She was very nice. She made the appointment. Um, I felt like saying, "So, what do you have for lunch?" But
Lunch runs.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, what are you doing after work? But anyway, and the week before, I had had coffee with the VP, Senior Vice President of Supply and Logistics at Piedmont Healthcare, which is the biggest hospital system here in Georgia. And to my surprise, they just signed a contract with an AI company to do, receptionist, clerical, that kind of stuff. Because, as we all know, in every company, personnel is your highest cost. And they're going to be reducing that considerably. I was surprised. They didn't sign a long-term contract because they're not stupid. They know they're not necessarily going to leave the dance with the one they took. Okay. But they're already dancing. And that actually surprised me. So anyway, I think my next topic for my next webinar, I'm going back and forth with it's going to be about uh, documentation, just really, really drill down into that probably. Or maybe some, the marketing and the information sharing that they could do. So it was fun. We didn't achieve world peace or anything, but it was everybody enjoyed it and they got something out of it. And hopefully the people that chimed in enjoyed it too.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I didn't make any money at it. I wouldn't say it's pro bono, but because I'm really interested in it, and I am introducing later this month a new company called Provensis, Provencis. It's a totally made up Latin word. That's going to basically be an AI agent. And if you want to see an example of that, you can look on their website because the landing page is already up. Or you can also look at another one. There's a couple of guys at UC Berkeley that I studied up last year. Real bright guys, raised a lot of money, Silicon Valley money, called Sully, SULLY.ai. These guys are like way ahead of the game. So in fact, they were so far ahead when my team looked at their webpage, they like got depressed. They go, "Oh my God, these guys are so far ahead." I said, "No, relax." I said, "This is a good thing." I said, "Because business breeds business." I said, "They're out there breaking down doors, doing customers, paving the way, and everybody else will get a piece."
Yeah. I
Well,
think when you look at the cost, it sounds terrifying, the cost as an employer when you first look at AI. But when you look at how much it can save you just in personnel costs, which are hard to find, the right people now. It's really worth it what it can bring to you.
I mean, I can put a receptionist in your office at $500 a month.
It's crazy. And they're
Yeah.
going to do a better job, unfortunately,
Well, they work
really
24/7.
elevated now.
Yeah. They work 24/7. They don't take breaks.
Hey, one of the
from
conversations you guys, and I'm sorry to leave it yesterday, but you were talking about privacy. I don't know if you've heard about privacy engineers, but it's probably one of the most up and coming professions kind of going, rising in that AI pyramid. It might be worth investigating for you.
And A privacy engineer.
Yeah, so you can hire them fractionally or you can hire somebody in your company, but it's a privacy engineer, somebody who's going to protect your data within your company and make sure that, even if they just pop in once a month and look at your system, because there's so many ways that your company and your employees can breach a firewall, just making sure that you're always protected, that your privacy, HIPAA, everything is protected within your four walls. I think I feel like if I was looking into the future with a crystal ball, we're going to see privacy engineers in the medical device field space within the next couple of years everywhere because it's just taking over, really.
So that makes a lot of sense because cybersecurity has been a top issue for the last 3 years.
Right.
And my cybersecurity insurance at VenOps, has literally tripled in the last 5 years.
Oh man, I am. So I'm an executive coach for an EVP of a reinsurance company. He specializes in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you, we talk about private, like property and casualty with storms and global
Yeah.
warming. Cyber is that next one. It's getting more and more risk involved, and companies don't want to touch it. So, I mean, yeah, my guess to your point about the insurance, you look at that privacy engineer, or what that's got to be it's got to be one of those things that helps you.
I haven't seen yet where there's any way to ameliorate our rate by doing things like that, but that will hopefully come.
Mhm.
They'll drag their feet probably, but there's not I don't know of a big orthopedic practice that I personally know that hasn't had a breach.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
And what do they take? Do they take financial data? They take patient data?
They just kind of go in and lock it up and ask for a ransom.
It's the crypto ransom. Yeah.
And
You
every
got,
time it happens, the administrative CEO loses his job.
yeah.
Maybe not right away, but it's like a time time bomb. Tick, 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 tick. Within 1 or 2 years, they're gone.
Yeah, that's really common. And it doesn't usually make the newspapers either.
Mm.
My next door neighbor was head of security for Citibank, and I'd play golf with him, and there was like a DEFCON 1 to 5, like 5 is, World War III. And he goes, oh, DEFCON 4 today. And I go, what happened? He goes, oh, they shut down all the banks in Argentina. I mean, it was like every day. I mean, and it's all cyber threats. It's
Uh,
incredible.
One of our panelists, was Roy Bajarno, and Roy is so well read. In fact, that's how I met him. We were both fellow English majors, and it would not just, excluding business, we used to just chat on the phone about books we're reading or whatever. And so Roy started talking about how right now we're in this like bromance phase of AI. It's like gotta have it. Everybody wants it, even if they don't know what it is. And he said, I mean, the people that are struggling and frustrated with trying to use it don't even use it, but don't even realize they use it every day already. All
Yeah.
their revenue cycle management programs, all the billing programs, they're all using AI already.
Yeah, book a flight. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
everything. So I heard a great podcast the other day, and they said the first place it's going to go is anytime there's voice. So anytime two people are talking to each other, that's data. And there'll be a co-pilot sitting there listening to the data, and it'll make suggestions, it'll take notes, it'll summarize the conversation, it'll put something on your calendar automatically that was in the conversation. And that's kind of the first application I think that we're going to see. Every meeting is going to have some kind of agent.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Kyle, I don't know if I know you have two different like presentations on this screen. Is one of those an AI note taker?
No,
No.
Me?
I use AI note takers. They're amazing how they summarize it with to-do lists and follow-up. I mean, when you look at the operations of your company, just to do an AI meeting, use AI note taker, and then you have this immediate way to follow up with your team. It's unbelievable. And the accuracy, it's not what you would expect. Like 2 years ago, it would just be, wrote exactly what was said when was said. The summarization of these things is really tremendous.
You just
Has
made
anybody seen any medical device companies like AI generated medical devices? I've seen a couple for the heart and instrumentation, like that will gauge in the heart, that type of stuff, but nothing else.
I don't know of anything. Chris, do you have a comment?
No, I was just gonna say you just made. Sorry, I'm not in a place where I can have camera on, but you maybe double take to see if mine popped on. It popped onto a meeting on Monday, and apparently was much more productive than I was, and I wasn't even on the call.
That's
Shows up.
awesome.
Funny.
Yeah.
Which one do you use, Colleen? I use Otter.ai. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I use Otter, but so I usually do my coaching sessions or when I'm talking to a client, I usually use Zoom. So I just use the one on Zoom and it's tremendous. I was shocked the first time because I have my old school notebook next to me because I'm not a great typist. And all of a sudden I went to go type my own notes and this email comes. And I'm like, wow, this is better than,
Yeah.
Chris, to your point, better than I could ever do. Yeah, but Mark, I'm right there with you.
And my note taker is called Rewind,
Okay.
and it does a transcript, a voice recording, and a summary. It kind of a, notated thing. Have I ever played for you one of the AI agents that we're using? You want to hear?
No.
You want to hear? You want to hear? You want to hear one?
Far away. I think Colleen hasn't heard it. Go for
Yeah.
I mean,
Or Jesse.
have I done it before?
You did it a few weeks ago, I think.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay, that's all right then. It's just just an AI taking an appointment, making an appointment. I made one up for an imaginary practice called Summit Orthopedics, and I'll just put the number in the thing. You can call it later and talk to
Oh,
her.
cool.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask is, all these AI tools with Mark's webinar and then what we're talking about conversations. What are the integrations that you have to integrate to make it really useful? You have to integrate it to your calendar, to, I don't know, to write emails automatically and things like that. Is anybody doing that with the integrations? Mark is Summit Orthopedic Receptionist. All right.
That's one. Yes, someone. And she's a receptionist. She'll make you an appointment. She'll ask you if you have any pain, where do you hurt, so forth and so on. Then she'll bring you in to see Dr. Smith.
Oh, that's
Hope he's
fantastic.
good. Well, that's funny.
That's
It's
fantastic.
funny.
So I was talking to an investor who he was asking me like what's out there in AI medical device that people would want to invest in and it's kind of interesting. Well, if you guys hear anybody, I mean, I certainly have a connection, I guess now, but I couldn't answer the question. I don't really. It seems like the possibilities are so broad. What could happen with metal? Just I think as an operator, how we could reduce on-hand inventories. I mean, that's a huge saving just by using AI and building it to suit. Or I think there's so many opportunities out there but I haven't heard of anybody in the startup phase with anything with AI and medical device at this point, minus the instruments, and that's big company.
And you're talking about using AI to design products or?
Well, maybe not only to design, but kind of, what's innovation? Like innovation with AI. If we, I imagine in the orthopedic space being able to, I don't know, print instead of repairing a bone, print a prosthetic bone, or I'm using the wrong term. Here's my medical device.
Yeah, I think those tools are
But
available.
software type of stuff.
Yeah, personalized medicine, I think those tools are available.
That'll go to a 3D printer in a hospital and things like that.
You
Yeah,
can
the
have
3D printer in the hospitals got issues. I mean, Lima tried that at HSS. They tried to print their own implants, and it's just hospitals are not. They just don't have the right engineers, quality people. It sounds great to print it and use it the next day, but it's just too much operational, I think, challenges.
Tiger, that one company I was talking to you about a couple of months ago that I'm representing right now. I will refrain from some of the information, but we did just implement our first printer in a facility, in a hospital in North America that they will be able to print. Can't say on demand because it still takes 24 hours to print it, but they'll be able to print at least the guides and the models within 24 hours there in the hospital. And since it's the company's tech, they can actually utilize it in surgery. Whereas in like Mayo Clinic, they have a printer, but that's really frowned upon to use it because it's in-house made. This is a good test run, and it was we're using their engineers inside the hospital.
Interesting.
So the hospital employees, they bought the machine, they got a clean room we set up. So this is the first of, we hope, 5 in 2025.
Oh, super cool.
Wow, that is cool. And it's for like weird anatomy or trauma or something that's
Yeah,
Please.
ortho-oncology, ortho-trauma, pediatric defects, things like that come their way that can be addressed within a 24, 48-hour period.
that
Wow.
makes sense. Yeah, it's a big difference going from guides, or models. Surgeon wants to hold the bone defect in their hand. That's one thing. And then cutting guides is kind of the next level, but implants, that's a big one.
Yeah. Especially for oncology, ortho-oncology, that's brilliant.
So I hosted a dinner last night here in Atlanta. I had 3 companies there: Abanza, Acura Medical, and what was the other one? Easy Whip by Winters Innovation. And the reason I brought it up is that the flyer that we sent out and emailed had a phone number on it to call an AI agent.
So I'm going to orthopedics again.
And basically, yeah, and anything you wanted to know about those companies, she could tell you. I just
Wow. So
fed
how did you build we'll all call Summit after this is over. How did you build that?
Well, for the AI agent for the dinner, I went to all the companies that were coming, and I just scraped their websites of everything, including their price list or whatever I could find. And just fed that into a knowledge base and then uploaded that to the AI. So the AI knew that.
Got it.
I did the same thing for an AI campaign I did in Chattanooga for Treese Medical. That was I said, you want to do a lab, dry lab, whatever. Doctor would call that number, and then the AI would, arrange for a demo or a rep to call or invite them to a lab.
So you have to have a unique phone number and you have to have a trained voice AI. What tool are you
Yeah,
using?
well, so the Prevensys thing that I'm rolling out, you build an agent and it gives you a unique phone number.
Got it.
Well, you can either do it by a unique phone number, which I think is easiest, or you can do it by Zoom.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Man, it's changing so fast.
Yeah.
And what Chris said was really important. You don't grab a hold of don't sign a long-term deal with anything because there's going to be a better one a month later, It's changing so fast.
Speaking of, did anybody
All right,
register for the Medical Device Consortium? In that Mark, I think Mark, you brought it up last week, right?
At the Academy.
Yeah. Is anybody going or nobody? Everybody? Nobody?
I'm going.
Oh, good. Good.
Not me.
AAOS, what is it?
It's at the Academy, but they have on the 12th, they have a medical device consortium that's all small medical devices.
Oh yeah, the orthopedic innovation. Yeah, I'm a part of that with my startup.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I was going to say Leah, Akuro, Abanza, we're all part of that, Mark.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's a great group. We we were at ASOM last year in Denver, and it was Leah, Molly maybe had kind of like started thinking about it, and it was like, how great would it be to get these smaller companies that get lost in the convention floor, but more importantly, don't compete, but really kind of coexist and help each other. So, if you think about it, Easy Whip's there, right? And a Bonza's there. That can be used very much together.
To sports medicine. Yeah.
Yeah, our product, we hope we'll start with tendons in the hand and foot and ankle, but then, slowly move into quadricep tendon repair, slap repair, where we could, go with them and go with some other companies and pool our money together to do labs and to do dinners like you were probably part of last night, Mark. And that was a smart Leah's a rising star in this industry.
She's sharp.
Yeah, I know she's fantastic. I was on 2 days ago talking to her about something else, but she's just super sharp, super good.
What a great idea. Well, I look forward to meeting you there.
Yeah, no, it's going to be. I highly encourage everybody if you're going to be a double S to sign up for it. It'll be good. Each company will have a wine barrel with their name on it, and we'll have our product, and you can come by and talk. And then we're also have invited, obviously surgeons to show up as well.
What's the name? I'm sorry. What's the name of your company, Chris?
Tiber Health, TYBR Health.
Okay.
Yeah, we're a few days into our FDA submission, so
Yeah, not to be confused with Tiber Medical.
that's right. I'm not Jeff Tiber. That's right.
Well, did you guys see the Medtronic acquisition of Nanovis? Um, yeah, so like AI is the buzzword now. Nanotechnology was a buzzword 2 or 3 years ago, I guess. And the problem is that there's so much bad information out there. Nobody knows. Surgeons are at the podiums saying wrong things, like, bone's too big to grow into nanotechnologies, and then everybody's putting nano on their product, which has no nano features. So it looks like Medtronic bought this to put coatings on things for better bone and growth, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Is
I
it
didn't.
there, Tiger, what exactly what assets they acquired with this, or is it?
It's not very clear. It sounds like it's just assets, just like you said. Um, I'll put the website here in the chat.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
they
it
just
wasn't, the price wasn't disclosed either.
interesting.
Could be, I don't know, was it exclusive licensing or is it a purchase? It sounded like it was a purchase.
Hmm.
But this is kind of what Dan Justin was doing down in Florida. The neat thing about nanotechnology is you could put it on you can license it to different spaces in orthopedics. So you can just keep, you can sell the sports medicine, license and the joint license and trauma. You can sort of keep going. It's a neat business model. A little bit like osteocentric. Are you guys familiar with osteocentric? Yeah, they have a better screw thread, and it sounds stupid, but it really works. I mean, it's totally mechanical, and it threads into bone easier than a normal screw, and then it bites like grim death. It will not come out, but you can back it out. You can. It's the surgeons say it feels like you have bone ingrowth in like 2 seconds. It's called osteocentric, and they finally figured out they're down in Austin. They finally figured out their business model, which is a licensing model. Same thing as like the nanotechnology companies.
Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, so I was looking into that when I first heard about them a year or two ago, and because a screw is a screw, right? But their design, they have a unique backside geometry of the back edge of the thread. So normally a thread pitch is just peak and valley. It's symmetric on either side of the top of the pitch, but theirs it's just cut differently, and they must have a special grinding wheel that they use for it. But it just creates essentially a different ramp on the back of the screw thread and probably more surface area. And it's pretty neat, especially when you see something that, unless somebody showed it to you under a cross section, you might pick up one versus the other and not notice the difference. Tiger, do they have a specific pull-out strength or Is it what sort of is there anything quantifiable that they push
Yeah,
for
yeah.
why that's
No, they have all the numbers. It's, you know, um, it just bites like crazy. It goes in like butter and then it just bites and it works. Um, and the hardest part's making it. They don't have any manufacturing in house. They rely on suppliers, and that's the biggest challenge. Engineers are at the suppliers all the time.
Oh,
Yeah, interesting.
osteocentric?
Osteocentric, yeah, .com.
Yeah. Okay.
It works. There was another company called Diamond that had something similar. There's another, and they were kind of struggling, and I just showed up in the VB's portfolio. So obviously, the VB's bought that thread, Diamond Orthopedic, I think is what it was called. Yeah, yeah, I'll put all this stuff in the chat. I'm writing an article right now. There are so many startups. I mean, I think there's 1,000 startups in orthopedics in the United States.
Down there.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And I talk to people, I see the startups a little more than most people because I just talk to so many people. And I'll be talking to somebody and say, well, do you know this company? Osteocentric. You're in Austin. You've been working in orthopedics for 20 years, and the startups in your backyard, you've never heard of them? It's like, and there's hundreds and hundreds of these things, and they're different phases. A lot of them are pre-revenue, trying to figure things out, but a lot of them are commercializing, and it's just no one person has visibility of all the startups, and they come and go. They're either growing or dying, and it's a really interesting. I'm going to try to write an article about. I think there's 1,000.
So are you able to make any educated guesses about how it breaks down spine, hip, knee?
Well, not joints would be the lowest because the entry price to get into joints is really high. Spine's probably the most because the entry price to get into spine. And you find your favorite doctor down the street, you design a new cage, you write a 510K, you got a business. I mean, you can get to $5 million in sales in spine in a heartbeat. Now, the hard thing is it's really hard to grow, but you can get started really easy. The prices are high. Yeah, Mark. No, I thought you had a question.
Speaking of startups, Tiger, we'd love to hear about Bone Factory. I'd love to hear how that's going.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So I get calls from surgeons sometimes, and they're frustrated. They brought an idea to Zimmer or Stryker, and just nothing happened, and they get stuck in meetings, and they call me and say, I need to get my idea back, but I can't. I got to sue the company to get my idea back. And the big companies, the bottom line is the big companies are terrible at innovation. That's why they do acquisitions. They don't do R&D anymore. And so, but when the surgeon brings an idea, they don't care about the surgeon's idea. They want the surgeon's business. And so they lead the surgeon along, put them in their business development portfolio, and nothing ever happened. Anyway, that's the need. And so I just wrote an article about this 3 months ago, I think, called a concept called the Bone Factory, where surgeon can bring their idea in. We immediately put together a virtual team. We try to understand the idea, have the surgeon put a little bit of prototype money behind it, and get to a working prototype as fast and as cheap as possible. And if it looks like it's all green lights, regulatory check, technology works, it's, ASP, everything, then we'll spin out a company. We literally spin out a company and match some funding with. If it's red lights, we just say, sorry, this isn't going to work. And so we got 4 going on right now. We've got and 3 out of 4 are foot and ankle. And we told one of them, great idea. This business will never work. You'll never be profitable. And we just said, your baby's ugly. Have a nice day. And the surgeon appreciated that. It was just very refreshing. So anyway, that's the Bone Factory, and the website is thebonefactory.co. I'm scared to repost the article because I don't want to get into 10 of these things. It's a Zoom call every week with a virtual team. The bonefactory.co. Yeah, it's
How many
interesting.
have so far?
What's that?
How many companies do you have so far?
Well, they're not really companies yet, but it's four surgeon groups with 4 different ideas. And yeah, and it's if and another thing I did, I wrote an article. I don't want to be the CEO of this thing. I don't want to have to go out and match funding and hire people. So I wrote another article saying I'm looking for the CEO of the Bone Factory. And there's no salary, there's no office, there's no guarantees, there's no, if everything works out great, you might have equity in a little company in the future. And I got a CEO in 12 hours. And he's great. And he came from the venture capital world. He's great. So
Congratulations.
well, it's fun. It's a lot of work. It's kind of like your webinars, Mark. It's not really doing much for me yet, but
You're not raking in the cash.
there's cash is zero, and equity may appear in 5 or 10 years. So yeah. Jesse, tell us about BoneBridge.
Trying to hold out and not to give the sales pitch today, but
Okay, well, just give an overview then.
okay. Yeah, so my name is Jess Dion. I'm the GM for BoneBridge. We're a relatively small orthopedic trauma company based out of Switzerland. We came to the US market with our first 510(k) at the end of 22, did our first surgeries at the beginning of 23, and we've been slowly building beachheads in the US since. So relatively young. We're well established in Switzerland. It's mostly just OG AO people. So there's a lot of people, even today, I mean, especially now more than ever, now that J&J has kind of thrown away the Synthes name and they've gone to J&J MedTech, there's a lot of hard feelings being felt in the clinical side of that. So a lot of this AO original contributors decided that they can probably do better and do it like the old Synthes. So that's what we are. The philosophy of the company is based off of reducing the complexities. So, and I don't think anybody can argue this point. Most of the orthopedic trauma market that's been developed in the last 15 years is strictly marketing. It's just trying to find new line items to compete on the contracting level and try to get their products above the next guy so that they can win the next GPO agreement. And it's gotten to the point where just a lot of these surgeons are just fed up with it. Like I didn't need the last 3 tibial plateau plates. Why are you showing me a new one? And like we go over, there's companies, I mean, J&J has, I think 5 or 6 plateaus on the plateau plates on the market. Globus just launched a system that has 3 different iterations of it. When you talk to any surgeon, like I can do that with a non-locking small fragment set. Why are you coming out with more and more stuff? So it's just adding burdens to the system that don't need to be there. So the philosophy of the company is to try to do it. All right, we can do it with state of the art and providing a lot of instrumentation and implants that are getting rid of all the fluff, small footprints in the hospital, but still providing strong clinical outcome for the patient. That's the gist.
You do an X fix too, or just plates and screws?
Our portfolio is mostly just plates and screws at this point. So we're all pretty much done our 3.5 system. We'll have we're starting our preclinical stuff for IM nails. That'll be our next launching. But the expectation is to be a full trauma company within the next 3 years. When I say I mean full trauma company, a company that can say that we can handle an 80% contract with a major health system.
All with internal capabilities, or are you interested in acquisitions?
At this point, we're still internal. We've been in communication with some smaller companies, and but at this point, it's the beauty of the Swiss mentality. They have no expectations of the how the U.S. does it, where we just want to blow it up and try to get acquired at whatever multiple they have. It's all about maintaining cash flow profitability, and they're happy to slow grow it. And we've been very successful at that.
If you can do trauma with less SKUs, you can really win.
Yeah, I mean, perfect like the example of our pitches, we produce our 3.5 system is one tray, and it's one tray for everything. So you can do a clavicle, proximal humerus, elbow, forearm, plateau, peel on ankle, all with that single one tray. So you have a hospital, you take our tray, put three of them on the shelf. You can do any three fractures that come in, no matter what it is. All the plates are sterile packaged. Whereas you look at the footprint of another company. I mean, we'll pick on J&J or Synthes. I mean, you show up with a proximal humerus, that's three trays. You got a clavicle, that's another three different trays. And they have just rooms devoted to the hospital of just storing all these different levels of instrumentation that we can do with literally one bookshelf.
So your stuff is sterile?
The implants are sterile packaged. So, well, the plates are sterile packaged. The tray is a standard tray. We did try the sterile screws, and everybody hates it. It just adds 15, 20 minutes to every case.
Okay. Cool. So OG,
May
I
I
like
ask
that.
a question? Jesse, are you guys at all focusing on sort of reducing surgical waste? I'm getting, messages that is an increasing priority.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you talk about like on the sports medicine side, that's huge on sports medicine because you can open 15 packages for one procedure. I mean, yeah, when we do our procedure, like I said, it's all one tray that does everything. So you only got to wrap one tray. That's your saving for the sterile processing and the logistics for the hospital. And then our plates, I mean, I don't have any in my office right now, but a plate is literally a box that's this big. So I mean, footprint wise, we're as small as they come.
It's fantastic. Yeah,
Um,
that'd be a good selling point at some point.
Yeah, I mean, we've done plenty of like white papers with the Swiss people. We're working to get some going here in the U.S. right now to show that it is a major savings, not even the respect to the pricing side, just respect to logistical savings.
Well, listen, I've been doing white papers for Health Trust, so let me know if you want to connect about that.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I probably will. You'll be seeing me
What
around.
have you seen in the medical waste space, Elizabeth? I'm kind of curious because I was trying to do some work on single-use instrument kits, and I just couldn't find a solution for recycling or donating or anything like that. I mean, came really, really close, but it's moving large mindsets to make something happen.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. And I mean, so what I'm hearing that needs to be done. Well, the stats are alarming. This is something that most people have never thought about, right? But apparently, it's five Boeing 747s a day that is generated in the ORs in the U.S.
That's
Are you-
tremendous.
yeah, it is. It's very disturbing. And the upshot of how, I'm sorry, the upshot of
Sorry.
how to move things forward is, you're not gonna make a lot of progress unless you get doctor and administrative buy-in, and you show them the bottom line, and you um, just make them part of the process, and the nurses as well, because they have their own stressors, and gee, do I open this now? How many of these do I open? That kind of thing. So it's a real systemic situation, and I don't know that many hospitals have gotten on it yet, so to speak. I don't know. Anybody else want to chime in?
Europe led the way, right? I remember in Europe 10 years ago, some hospitals would force the manufacturer to come take all the waste out of the surgery at the end of the day. So that's kind of an incentive to decrease your packaging.
Yeah, at least they didn't put it on the patient. Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting to look into all that, and I think it's going to be more and more. It's very visible, right? If you can, like I said, the Boeing 747s, and if administrators can be shown how they can save money and figure out some sort of reward system, all the better.
So you said it was 7 Boeing 747s a day?
I think it was 5. What did I say? Anybody else
I'm
remember?
sorry.
Yeah.
Where's our AI when we need it? Yeah.
Yeah.
With the notes.
Equivalent of about roughly 5 Boeings, yeah, a day, just out of the ORs in the US.
So
Uh,
I got some surgeon buy-in about a year ago, and we were trying to get it done in California. It just we couldn't get all of the pieces together. The company I was with and working trying to do this through wasn't creating enough waste to generate somebody to come in and pick it up, and it would have to be something bigger than that. But I talked to a company a couple months ago that felt that they were on the cutting edge of creating this system for all hospitals that would kind of take titanium based metals and create storage systems and bring that together and then be able to recycle that. So if anything comes of that, I'll share it with you. But right now, I don't know anybody or have seen anybody. So if you do come across, it's something that crosses my plate regularly. So if you do come across anything, I'd love to hear.
yeah, sure. I will throw this in. So a couple of the different papers that I saw on this kind of came to the same conclusion that to a large extent, this is a cultural problem, as far as what the nurses are used to doing, the techs, and how do you move the needle on changing people's behavior? All comes back to psychology, says the therapist.
Hey, Kyle, didn't Crossroads have a recycling program as one of their products where they would come pick it up something after the case? I forgot. I remember Vernon did something like that.
I don't know. For Crossroads, I know that Flower never really got off. They sure tried for years and years to do the single sterile packed screws and plates and such, and they're still alive. But hopefully that Chris, you guys learned, or Jess, you guys learned that lesson faster and cheaper than they did. But somebody used to do something where there was a certain jig that you got a rebate if you kept it and didn't throw it away. They could pick it up and repurpose it, and it saved everybody some money. But I don't remember who did that.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. So Crossroads had this thing called Echo Smart Instrument Service,
Mm.
which let's see, which provided customers with gamma sterilized reusable instruments, reducing waste. I don't exactly understand how this worked, but I remember seeing it as one of their offerings before they got acquired.
There's a French company called Science for Biomaterials that when they make a presentation to a hospital or a surgery center, they call it their green initiative. And it's about reusability. It's kind of that Euro sort of consciousness of that cultural issue you're talking about. And sometimes it's kind of met with derision by some of the anti-woke surgeons. Like, it's kind of funny really how it quickly bridges into this cultural thing. I mean, what's wrong with something with not wasting stuff? I don't know, but that's their thing.
Well, I mean, the single-use kits have been, I mean, one, it's a safety issue, right? They're seeing that there's less infection with it, but it's also a time factor. Like these surgeons can blast through a ton of surgeries during the day if they're using the single use. They're not waiting for new equipment. But it goes like the problem with single use is there's no testing that's been done to say, hey, you can recycle this thing 3 times and keep packaging it. You have to, there's so many problems with it. It has to go to meltdown to be rebuilt. Unless companies decide that they're going to take a single use kit and see how many times that you can recycle it, but then how do you track it? And I won't bore you with all of that. But anyway, Elizabeth, if you hear anything, let me know, or anybody. It's something that crosses my desk all the time.
Interesting. And if David Kay was here, he would say it's a labor problem too, because all the central sterilization has got, they got hundreds of trays, and if somebody calls in sick, they have to literally cancel surgery at his hospital that he owns. Um, you don't see the engine room down the bottom that keeps supplying the ORs. Most people don't go down there.
And that's been a big disaster since COVID. That's one of the few places that hasn't recovered.
And how so, Jesse?
Staffing. I mean,
Oh,
they got major staffing issues as soon as COVID hit, and I mean, I know, especially Northeast down in this area in Pennsylvania, the places that were beacons of efficiency, arthroplasty hospitals that would do one surgeon could do 12, 13 arthroplasties in a day. Now they're struggling to do six. I mean, it's scary to see. You're
and
rolling dice if the implants are even sterile half the time.
wow, the long pole in the tent is the instrument labor.
Hmm.
Wow.
We talking about SBD?
Yeah, sterile processing. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we have a lot of hospitals that just never recovered.
Really?
Having the right staff I mean, it's a low level entry job, and unfortunately, those people tend to get the brunt of the abuse because of they're usually the delinquent part of having not having trays in time. So not many people stick around.
And I partly blame the manufacturers because over the decades the trays have just gotten more and more complicated. There's more stuff, and they're trying to fit. Things fall out. They're trying to rebuild the puzzle while they're
Mhm.
down in and it's just more complexity, and it chokes them. It's Lucy in the Chocolate Factory, if you remember that skit.
You're making my pitch for me, Tiger. Thank you.
That's true. Let's see, what else before we sign off? Tom's been quiet. He usually has some good philosophy. Oh, he's gonna stay mute. Kyle, tell us what you're working on,
Hmm.
or what you can tell us.
I'm actually mostly involved in a operations transfer at the moment, which is not what my intent was to work with a particular client, was to focus more on manufacturing, but it turns out they were going to move some facilities and they learned that I'd done that a couple times before. So I get to be the guy. And there's, as you can imagine, there's a lot of moving pieces with stuff like that. But I'll tell you, I've had the chance to, gosh, let's see, work at like 4 different companies as a full-time employee, and I've had a chance to consult at a few more now. And man, it's fun to meet lots and lots of people from new places as part of moving around. And in the consulting realm, it's not as much of a commitment, right? So I'm not there forever, but it's also not. I don't have to. If I'm leaving, it's because it's just part of we finished a job. So that's been an interesting adventure to get to know a wide range of people from new places.
Yeah, every company is different. I mean, they have different technology, different people, different cultures, and none of them are the same. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
They have different skill sets. They struggle with different problems.
Yep. And it's always fun to see where some of the influence of how they've grown or where they came from can impact day to day. So, the place I work with now is an accumulation of what used to be a bunch of smaller startups, but now they're under a much bigger brand. So, they're trying to behave like a startup, but they have this gigantic corporate umbrella that just holds them down. So it's to some degree the worst of all worlds, but they're trying real hard. And then I've seen it on the other side where you can be kind of a rogue skunk unit inside of a big company where you're hidden in the shadows and you can get away with everything. And then I've seen the startup and acquisition space. What I have found to be universal, and prior to medical, we're starting to make a focus on how we can help in this area. But what I found to be universal when I've been part of the company being acquired or been around when the acquisition was made, seems like every time, once the deal is made, all the work to integrate and figure it out post acquisition is just dropped in the lap of people that have a full time job already. And it is such a recipe for disaster. I've never seen it go well. The stats are way against it, but the acquiree isn't served properly because they get kind of closed out. The acquirer doesn't hit the milestones that they promised.
Yeah.
Everybody gets overworked. It's wild seeing that again and again.
And the acquirees are nervous, and it's just become such a people issue, right? I mean, there's just so much anxiety on the people who are getting all this extra work. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
It is a tragic misalignment of incentives in every direction.
Yeah.
That's well said. That's why the Zimmer Paragon 28 thing is just never going to work. I mean, they will never, get sales above where Paragon had it.
So I did hear something that surprised me recently. So Tournier was acquired by Stryker after having just a great run in the shoulder space. And what Stryker appears to have done with that former Tournier team is largely leave them alone. Call them Stryker, leave them with their headquarters, leave most of the people in place, expand on their brand and their product, but let them operate with influence from the Stryker culture, but without overtaking them. And they're doing extremely well. And there are not a lot of examples of that.
That's a really good point.
When were they taken over by Stryker? How long ago was that?
So maybe 2.5 years ago,
Really?
something like that. Maybe I guess it could be more.
It was Wright bought Tournier first, right?
Right bought
Correct.
28, and then
And
Stryker.
then Stryker bought Wright. Yeah,
Right.
so it's been the Tournier thing was 8 years ago.
It's a while
Could be
back.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you say that, Kyle, because there's a couple of guys I know here in North Carolina that are, lifer distributor reps, and they were not the mold for Stryker. They've stuck on, and I laugh and joke with them whenever I see them. I'm like, you're not wearing your Armani suit, and you don't have a chiseled chin yet. And they're like, they leave us alone, but that's what happens when you got a $4 million each, client going on that you don't want to mess with. That was smart.
Yes, similarly, I've had discussions the last 2 weeks with foreign companies that try to create a U.S. subsidiary, a little bit what Jesse's doing here. And the ones that work are the ones where they hand them the keys. Here's the keys to the United States. Go make it happen. The ones where it doesn't work is where you have to call back to Germany, every week, or Korea. I mean, there's a graveyard of bad companies. The stellar one is Osseo. Osseo came out of Israel, and they got 60, 70, probably 80 employees in Israel now. And I don't know how many they have in the US, 30, not including sales. And they handed them the keys. They said, here, Brian and Brennan, here, you guys know what to do. We don't know the market. Just tell us what products you need, and we'll keep designing them and manufacturing. And the engineers fly over from Israel to see the sports medicine guys in the US do whatever the US guys tell them to do, and go back and make it happen. That's been stellar.
What's interesting there too is like Brian Marilla is not a traditional orthopedic guy. Neither is
No.
Brian. So it was like, they had the Medtronic big picture. I think they're vascular guys, but here are a bunch of guys that are not your traditional orthopedic, and they came in and they're taking what is seemingly a great concept of natural, but very hard to do. Let a lot of skeletons in that pathway gone before, but they're doing a great job. Every time I applaud Brennan whenever I see him. He's done a great job.
They're doubling sales every year. I mean, it's just insane, and they have zero competition because they're kind of the only non-metal small bone fixation company.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Want to end on that? Thanks, guys. We have a speaker next week, Track Patch, and then the speaker the next week is ORAF. Going to tell us about their venture fund they have for startups.